Hey guys, Aleida here from NERDSHOCK. So last week we wrapped up the core story of Guild Wars 2 with Victory or Death, and today we're actually taking a little break from adventuring with Basil the Wanderer. So what I wanted to do is actually go over some of my favorite resources that I use almost daily as a casual player of Guild Wars 2. So let's take a look. One of the things that I definitely use is the Guild Wars 2 official website. You have a lot of news published here. Sometimes, people say, hey, ArenaNet is sometimes a bit quiet about, the game, about giving information, about what we can expect as players, as fans of Guild Wars 2. But overall, when you check in on the official website from time to time, of course, you can follow Guild Wars 2 on social media, but I also just go to the main website, guildwars2.com, and check their news. So you can check out entries about how they designed the world bosses. It's very cool that they give a little bit of, an insight into that process. But you can also check posts on, for example, the events such as an Extra Life, which happened last Friday, and other events as like a Shadow of the Mad King that went live and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoy just using, the Guild Wars 2 website as the main source of information when it comes to what Guild Wars 2 is about, what the official news is, or what the developers have to say. And with the official website, of course, also comes the Wiki page. And one of the things that I always check every day is the event timer. There are some add-ons you can use with Guild Wars 2, so you can, have insight into the event timer in-game, but I actually don't use any add-ons when it comes to Guild Wars 2. I sometimes get a bit tempted to, install Arc DPS and really check what my damage is or how good I am or bad, but I still consider myself to be a very casual player. I don't really do instance group content. I'm not a speed runner, so I don't have actually, a great reason to install Arc DPS, and I don't really want to ruin that experience by being able to see how much damage I can do compared to other people and things. So I kind of skip on add-ons and only use sources such as the event timers page to keep a track on what is happening in game. So, for example, for core Tyria, the world bosses are on a timer. If you see a daily objective in the wizard's vault, then you can, for example, see when a certain world boss is up. There are, of course, also the hard world bosses and other things, such as the ley line, anomaly, and things. Also, the PvP tournaments are listed as well, but I usually just use it for keeping a track of world bosses. Of course, there are also timers for all the other content in the game, such as the Living World seasons, the expansions, and currently the festival is still going on, Shadow of the Mad King. So at 1 in my local time, a Mad King says will pop up again, and people can join that event. So the timer on the wiki page is definitely a great resource to check and keep an eye on when you play the game. So I also keep an eye on Taro Everclaw. He is an NPC merchant, or in this case, it says he's a fishmonger, and you can find him in Arborstone. That's part of the End of Dragons expansion. And if you've completed the mastery of Arborstone, the Arborstone Revitalization mastery track, he pops up, and you can actually trade in fishes for a chunk of ancient Ambergris. These fetch a pretty great price if you just want to sell them off. Sometimes you can see they are 2 gold currently. You get a little more when they're a little more expensive when you buy them, and if you sell them, you get like 6 silver less. But it's a very easy 2 gold to grab via an exchange for fishing daily. Sometimes not all fish are quite easy. For example, the opa from the waters of the Isles of Ilona, that one is, well, still, I think personally a bit hard to catch. I don't quite like to go to an offshore fishing hole in Ilona, so I usually skip the opa. But there are also other fishes like largemouth bass, a rainbow trout, or a croaker, and that kind of stuff. And I usually keep a bit of a small stash of these fishes in my inventory for my dedicated fishing character. In the next video, I will take you along with doing my dailies and my weeklies, and then you'll can see this while I'm doing, like, hopefully we get an easy fish, and I can show you guys what that looks like. But the fish is very handy. So of course you might not have the End of Dragons expansion. Maybe you are eyeing like starting with Secrets of the Obscure, because of course End of Dragons really rounds up the whole dragon saga, and maybe you got interested in Guild Wars 2 and only want to play the most recent expansions. So maybe you've started with Secrets of the Obscure or even Jantir Wilds. So in Jantir Wilds there's also a fishmonger. I personally don't use that fishmonger yet to trade in fishes, but you can also have a similar experience with Taro Everclaw with one of the fishmongers in the Gentle Wells, which is here. I've got a page for that as well. It's Bending Reed, but there is oak. There's also Humbleton and Lupine in the Wind in the Gentle Sintry region. So they work the same as Taro Everclaw, and you can use a fish, a sockeye, and then trade it in for a chunk of ancient ambergris. Another handy page in the wiki. Overall, the wiki is super handy. You can access the wiki by /wiki in-game, and then it opens for you. And especially if you are a player that just started your journey in Guild Wars 2, there is a lot of information on the wiki. So if you're, joining a world boss for the first time, a meta, you can always look it up on the wiki and kind of scroll over the general information, even really deep dive. They also really kind of hide spoilers for you if you don't want to read those, but it's quite handy. And I guess that's a plus also if you're thinking about, just really diving into Guild Wars 2 now. And maybe you're worried that, you're being behind by jumping in the game now, and the game is already a couple of years old. With the help of all the information in the wiki, and of course all the guides other people and other players share on YouTube or on other websites, that can be helpful as well. But if you're like, okay, well, where do I start? The wiki is definitely just simply a good place to start. And if you are kind of lost when it comes to the story, you can always check the story journal. I kind of use this one currently a lot because, of course, I'm playing through the story with Basil the Wanderer, and I kind of keep this as a guideline where, where the story went and how I could, make chapters for each story step. And of course, we ended with the back storyline, Victory or Death. That was like part 8 of the main storyline of Guild Wars 2, and now of course I'm eyeing on doing a Living World Season 1 soon. So this gives me a great overview of what is actually happening during the seasons and during the expansions. For example, I can also imagine if you've started playing Guild Wars 2, maybe you came back or you're new and you haven't unlocked the Living World seasons, and you might be like, okay, well, I'm interested in playing this, but I only want to play the mainline expansions, for example, Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, End of Dragons, but I'm not really interested in doing the Living World seasons. or maybe do them later when you're really like your build is perfect already and you're pretty strong and you're like, okay, now I feel comfortable going back and doing some older content without feeling I'm missing out on the newer content of the game. But you still want to kind of know what actually happened. You can use the story journal to kind of dive into the overline of a season or a specific episode and get some story lines from that. So when I returned to the game, I took a break after Living World Season 1. My computer broke down. I decided to buy a PlayStation 4 and actually returned to the game when they announced Path of Fire. So at first, I was like, okay, cool, Path of Fire looks really awesome. I also picked up Heart of Thorns, and I felt like, okay, I really want to dive into Path of Fire during the release. And I tried to play Heart of Thorns, but I was really overwhelmed, especially because I came back to the game and really needed to get used to everything. And so I was like, okay, well, I've been out of it for some time. I really want to play Path of Fire. I'm going to skip on Heart of Thorns now and come back later. But what are the main storylines and did I miss something? So I used the story journal to actually give me a bit of an overview of the story up until Path of Fire. And I just had fun in Path of Fire. So yeah. I also use Guild Wars 2 Efficiency a lot. You can set up an account and connect your API key with your official Guild Wars 2 account. And then what it does is actually really, you know, subtract all the information from your Guild Wars 2 account onto a very handy website, which helps you give an overview of your account. So for example, let's go to account. You can see your account value. I usually don't really look at my account value, to be very honest, because as you can see, it can go up and go down. There's also, it kind of depends on the market. It depends on the items on your account. If you have a gold, unspent gold, but of course your account is always in flux when you're crafting items, buying stuff, and that kind of stuff. So you can see an overview of what's in your wallet, the value, liquid gold, and other things. The value of your unlocked miniatures or your mounts, and also the value of all your characters. So it's a fun overview. It's fun for stats, I guess, if you're into that. But I usually use this to keep track of, for example, my characters. If I want to have a quick look at its like builds, for example, I mentioned that we're playing with Basil the Wanderer, of course, and I want to kind of mirror Caduceus. That's my main guardian in the game, and then I can always check his build. I'll copy the build template. Of course, I've stored the build template in my game as well, but sometimes it's nice to have a visual of what he's actually has equipped, what his build is like, and then I can go in game and like, oh yeah, maybe I should get the Zin's data crystal, and and mimic it, and you can even check what stats I've picked for each equipment slot. So that's quite handy, of course, if you have a lot of characters and things, and if you are into, if you want a nice overview. And of course, you can always check when the next birthday present. So next present. So Ada the Enlightened, a level 20 Asura Guardian. She'll soon get her present, or she just... Yeah, next birthday in 5 days and 3 hours. So that's always fun to look forward to check when one of your characters will receive their next birthday present. Yeah. Okay, and yeah, so it's just, there's a lot on this website which can be helpful. Like I mentioned, you can have an overview of your characters, your achievements, and of course your bank or material storage if you're wondering like, okay, what do I actually have in my material storage or in my bank? or my shared inventory slots. It's a nice handy overview of your account information without having to log into the game. But I think the most important reason why I use GW2 Efficiency is because you can go to the crafting menu, and I always keep track of what I need to buy or need to collect when it comes to the things that I'm currently crafting. So my main focus is now the medium obsidian armor. It's a legendary armor you can earn through Secrets of the Obscure. I already have the light version, or the light armor weight, and the heavy armor weight, and now I only need medium. And I didn't really plan on creating 3, but you know, it's kind of addictive, I guess. Once you're finished with one armor set and you're like, oh, well, hey, I managed to do this. I can definitely go for a second. And if you get that done, you're like, well, I already have 2. Let's go for the third. And yeah, it feels really doable, actually. So, you know, I consider myself to be a casual player. And if you are a bit like, well, I'm not really sure about really going into legendary crafting, is it very necessary? Just start. You know, every day or every time you log in the game and you do a little baby step for, you know, getting your materials together. At a certain point, you'll definitely get there. So I currently only need about 454 gold to buy some materials and things so I can finally craft it. I'm currently still in a whole gathering material phase, because, for example, globs of ectoplasm, those are like really expensive, and unfortunately, I still need to gather a lot of rifts. It's definitely doable because I mean I did manage to craft 2 armor sets, but yeah. I'm actually taking a bit slower for the third armor set. I'm not really grinding hard anymore, but it's still something. And the same goes for the essences of luck. So I'm just taking my time doing this and just, slowly working towards my third armor set. Research notes are always also a big thing. It's not easy to get those, but if I'm just taking it slow. I'm not going to push really hard. When I was working on my first legendary armor set, I actually played really intensely the first month. I think in the release month of Secrets of the Obscure, I did the meta like each day with like a big team of players that were also highly motivated to get all their materials ready for the first legendary armor set. But now I'm just taking it very slow, and but at a certain point you'll get there. And GW2 Efficiency gives you a very handy list of items you already have, or what you still need to get, and then how you can craft your legendary armor pieces. So yes, so I currently set this on use own materials, and then let's just, for the fun of it, pick no. It should recalculate. Think. Maybe refresh. Oh dear. And let's wait. Oh, and then no. Oh, maybe buy price. Oh, yeah, and then sell price. So this is like the clean price. If I wasn't using my own materials and had to start from scratch, it would definitely cost me 3,276 gold and then some to craft a full obsidian legendary armor. So yeah, if you're saying, well, use your own materials, yes, 450 gold actually sounds pretty good, right? So yeah. So that was GW2 Efficiency. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of other information things you can get from this website, but for crafting, it's super handy to kind of give you an overview of what you still need and what you already have, and what it will cost you to craft your favorite item. So yeah, Guild Wars 2 is a game without a subscription fee. Of course, the expansions, you need to pay for those, and it has a gem store. But I don't really feel like Guild Wars 2 is that bad when it comes to pay to win or things. I know that a lot of people sometimes mention, like, well, my inventory is so small and it feels like I'm forced to, buy more inventory space or buy bags, and then it will cost me money. And I'm like, okay, I don't really feel that it's that like bad or something. If you are just really casual and just enjoying the game very superficially, you probably don't need that much inventory space, and you can just sell it off and just keep your coin. But if you are really enjoying the game and are into it, I think it's not bad to actually, use the gem store from time to time. So thatshaman.com of That Shaman has a wonderful website that kind of keep tracks of all the items that are upcoming in the gem store. So you can kind of keep track, or at least keep an eye on items that might return that you've missed the first time around. So it's not about, some people say like, oh, they're just forcing you, there's an item in the gem store and it's only limited time available, and then you're like, oh no, I need to pick it up now and they're forcing me to buy it. Well, you can just ignore it and just keep an eye on, when it comes back. So sometimes that means you do definitely need to wait a while, but if it's just a cosmetic item that changes the look of something, I don't really mind skipping out of it and just pick it up at a later time. So one thing I am keeping my eye on is currently the Warclaw Frontline Mount Pack, which will return on November the 18th, on Monday. And let's click on it. And then, it leads you right to the official wiki with more information of what's in the Warclaw Frontline Mount Pack. So it actually has multiple Warclaw skins. That's quite nice. It also shows you the acquisition, if it's available, and if it's how much gems there is. The item is currently unavailable because, of course, it will return on the 18th. And a gallery of the skins, and here the gem store history, so you can kind of keep track of the times that it was available for purchase. So it started in 2019 in March, then it came back in April and August that same year, and then it was only available in March again in 2020 during the March sale. Always handy to keep an eye on the March sales. And then in September 2020, in 2021, and then in 2022, and it didn't return in 2023. So yeah, for me personally, now will be a great time when it comes back to pick it up. If I want one of the skins, at least one of the skins from more skins. I quite like the branded Warclaw skin. And let's see, the Amber Mane. I think that looks pretty cool. So I probably, okay, just for fun, let's just, the Outrider is also included. And is that a Halloween? Or the Vanguard? Interesting paint job. And Assault. Those final two aren't very interesting. I think the first three are interesting. So yeah, I mean, 5 Warclaw skins. I'm definitely picking that one up because I'm not going to wait another year or 2 years for that. I've waited long enough, right? I mean, yeah. So I kind of missed a lot of chances to pick it up, and now would be a good time to finally do so. So yeah, and other items, you can find a short code here behind certain items. For example, if you want to know how the Lightbinder Blade Sword skin looks like, in-game. You can start up your game and then copy this code in the copy and paste it in your chat box. And then if you click the code, you'll be able to preview the item. It doesn't always work. For example, maybe a package doesn't quite work, but it's a fun way to, keep an eye on what's coming in the gem store, or maybe something that is already currently in the gem store when you're not in game, and kind of see what you might want to pick up. Maybe you need to grind more gold so you can convert them to gems, or maybe you're like, my paycheck is coming in. I'm definitely keeping some money at for buying gems or something. So yeah, so those are a lot of websites that I kind of use semi-daily. And because my characters are all already level 80, there hasn't been a new specialization introduced in the game for quite some time. The last ones were during the End of Dragon expansion, the End of Dragons expansion. And of course, they did the weapon mastery thing, that you can use different weapons or specialization weapons on a core build. And of course, we got the spear in Gentle Wilds. But overall, I don't really mess around with my builds anymore. Maybe change the skill when it comes to a certain a certain event or a certain fight that I need to change a certain skill, that it makes it more efficient in a certain encounter. But overall, I don't really look at my builds anymore. But when I do have more time, I will probably try to play around with some other professions a bit more, and then I will definitely kind of look at builds again. So the next websites I don't really use that often, to be very honest, because I'm already kind of sticking to my main characters with their professions and their certain playstyle, their builds. So, but yeah, if you are looking for a build, you can always go to metabattle.com. So currently I have the Guardian selected for open world builds, or well, the Guardian page. So it does give PvP or Fractal and Dungeon or open world. Let me close some of the advertising. So for example, for open world, or you can have a Dragon Hunter specialization or Firebrand, but you can also check builds for example, Core Guardian. And of course, there are builds for raid and strikes, and world versus world roaming, or if you are in a Zerg. So roaming mainly solo or with a smaller group, or Zerg when you're really with a lot of people going over the maps in world versus world. And you see there's a score, a rating, and how difficult it is. So usually I would just go in here and kind of check if something is interesting, and then kind of see what you might need, what variations you might be able to use, and what equipment is handy to have on your character. And of course, damage priorities and things, and what your rotation might be. So you can use this to grab get some inspiration, or a build. Maybe you are someone who likes to have kind of a build that is already set up for you and tells you what to do, what your rotation should be, what you should be using. Some people quite like that. Other people, like me, kind of take this as inspiration, take it into the world. I mean, I do open world stuff a lot, so it's much more, you can, you don't have to be on top of you don't have to bring your A game all the time, I should say. And you can, mess up sometime and just play something that you think is fun. But if you are going into, raid and strikes and things, you might need to stick closer to that specific build or that specific role you want to fulfill. So another great resource is hardstuck.gg. And I've also pulled up the Guardian page for this. Again, there are, the categories for your build: group PvE, World vs. World Circuit, Open World. As you can see, there are a lot more builds for group PvE than Open World, because, well, yeah, it really depends what you want to bring in that group. Of course, do you want to be the power build, or more like condition quickness or heal alacrity, that kind of stuff. It's much more focused when you do instant group content or PvP. So yeah, let's take, for example, what's handy is Hardstuck also shows what booster builds are. So that's the level 80 booster you can use. And for example, let's pick this one. It also shows, which traits you need to select, your armor, and your trinkets. If you use, of course, a booster, it here says it's the Celestial Ascended gear, but if you have used a booster, you will get Celestial Exotic gear. And I think I mentioned that before, you can easily get your Ascended weapons and gear from the Wizard's World nowadays. So yeah, it's quite handy. Again, you have your in-game guild template you can copy, a short introduction, and just an explanation about the build. So if you are really interested into, being very efficient, what your build is, and learning more about that, this is a great source of information and things that you can learn more about it. So yeah, those are actually all the resources I kind of use. There are some more, but I don't really. It's been a long time since I used, for example, Guild Wars 2 skills.net. I also sometimes use that. But yeah, so I'll be closing off with a view of my own website, nerdshock.com. Feel free to drop by sometime. There's more stuff and geeking out on Nerdshock HQ, not just Guild Wars 2. So, come around, visit me, subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time.